And, that was great, but that was also a challenge because, I had to drive over there and, it wasn't my space and I didn't always want to be there and, and then that friendship ended. And so then that was, my stuff was still there and I was, it was just a lot of different things. And, so I, again, was just really, really bummed. Yeah. So I was like, I don't think that I will actually make this happen. I don't know how. I don't know how I'm going to make this happen. And so I just, stopped completely. So this was now, 2019. Yeah. I didn't do anything with it. And then in 2019, that's when I was, doing all those spirituality things and diving into myself and at some points diving too deep to the point where I was too much is coming up and I don't even know how to handle all of this. Yeah. Started a new therapist, which was fantastic. And it was in December of 2019. I could no longer live in the duplex that I was living at. I was like, I cannot live here anymore. I need a better space for myself. I want somewhere where I can feel safe. I needed more space. I was just determined to find something new. Yeah. And I knew that I did not want to live in an apartment because I don't like apartment complexes, and I knew what I didn't want, and I was like, and I'm gonna find it.
That's a great place to start.
And at that time too, it was October, November, I finally left Whole Foods. I was miserable at Whole Foods. I was really, really unhappy, and I ended up finding a new job, starting a new job, which was just a massive relief. It was complete night and day from corporate structure to where my boss is a homie and treats me as an equal and sees me and is there for me and talks to me like a human and incredibly supportive. And so that was October, November, and then December my lease was up, and I never forget this. I was at work and I was Craigslist, refresh on Craigslist, trying to find a garage apartment, and I found one. It had been posted a couple of hours prior. Messaged them immediately. Went to go see it. This insane garage apartment in Westlake, in a millionaire's home, and
let's go.
And it was completely out of what I thought was out of my budget, right? And it was a garage that was separate from the main house, and so the downstairs was the garage and the upstairs was the apartment, the loft. And I remember walking in and I was like, I have to live here. I have to. I mean, it was just a complete upgrade on so many levels from where I was living prior. And when I went to go visit, and I was chatting with the woman who owned the home, and I noticed that the garage space downstairs was kind of not being used. And so I was like, hey, could I potentially have a little spot in the garage and set up to make jewelry? And she was like, yeah, no problem, we can clear up a space for you. And I was like, done. This is it. This is it. And so it all ended up working out so beautifully. I moved in December of 2019 into this truly magical space. December 2019, right before the pandemic. And I mean, it was a dreamy, dreamy spot. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. People would come over and they'd be like, "What the fuck? Where do you live?" And I'm like, "I know." I had a pool, massive backyard, completely surrounded by nature. It was a little resort. I had 2 balconies. One was completely private to myself. just completely renovated. I had a bathroom heater. Like, I didn't even know I needed one of those.
Didn't know until then.
I had a fireplace in the middle. Like,
there was a middle?
There was a middle. It was...
And you moved away
I had those fridges with the 2 doors.
Yeah.
You had a middle, a bathroom heater, and a 2 fridge door.
Yeah.
You
didn't know I needed that. It was a level up. I remember my friends helped me move, and like one of them was like in tears because she was like, "Holy shit! Like you made this happen."
Yeah.
Because it was wild. I mean, definitely wild, this space.
Yeah.
But I remember, like, even soon after that, like, it took them a while for them to, like, clear up the space in the garage, right? And I was, like, starting this new job, and I was, like, really caught up in that and busy, and I was just like, ugh, like, okay, now I have this space, but, like, now I don't have the time, or, like, the mental space to do this, and, like, I don't want to bother them about, like, clearing out the garage, but, like, I need them to clear out the garage, you know?
And that's something that you asked for at the beginning. They said yes.
Yeah. And which they did. You know, they definitely did. And I was able to get my setup. And then I was just, like, extremely busy. It was, like, January, February, where I then, like, went to New York for the trade show and worked that. And I just remember being, like, oh, my God, like, my life is about to now be super busy with this new job. Like, am I going to be able to make jewelry? And then the pandemic hit. And then I had all the time in the world.
So much time, actually. It was insane.
More time than I know what to do
More
with.
time than I even knew what to do with. And I remember, like, that. So that was March 2020. And
what time? I
was, like, scared. I was scared to even, like, touch any of my tools. I was like, I haven't done this in, like, 2 years. Like, I was scared to even, like, turn on my torch.
So it was a 2-year span when you went to that class when you opened it back up for 2020.
Yeah.
Wow. And that was the only class you took?
It was the only class I took.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
And so...
Good on you for, like, sticking with it, though.
And another testament to, like, the gift you had with it. Like,
Thank you.
2 years later, you're still producing some of the coolest shit I've ever seen.
Thank you.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, 2020 was a really amazing year for me. Like, I learned so much about myself. I grew exponentially as an individual and, like, as a woman and what that means to me to be a woman.
Yeah.
I found success in being a jeweler. Like, I just remember I was like, fuck it. Like, I had a personal Instagram, right? And so I just, like, changed it to, like, a jewelry one. And I was like, all right, well, now all of my followers are just going to see jewelry. Like, I don't care.
It's up to them if they want to keep following me or not.
This is me, so take it or leave it.
Yeah, I was like, all right, well, now this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, the things that I was making, I look back on it now and I'm like, oh, that's cute. But, like, I mean, I was doing it.
Yeah.
And people were buying stuff.
Gotta start somewhere.
That's how it goes.
And, you know, I was, like, honestly shocked at the response that I was getting for a lot of these things. And it was so incredible, you know? I was like, oh, my God. Like, I'm doing this, you know? And I'm doing pretty all right.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I remember, like, I think it was, like, in August of that year, I even did this, like, collaboration thing where, like, it was, like, the most jewelry I have ever made that was, like, up on a website, and, like, that was being sold. I remember it was, like, the most money that I had made through jewelry, and I was, like so excited about that, and then, I mean, from there, it's just been, like,
Stacking.
It's just been consistent growth, which is, you know, really crazy to think about.
So at what point, so you started making jewelry again when 2020 happened? Did you quit? You didn't quit your job, right?
No.
So you still had that job?
I still had the job.
But you don't have the job now, though. So what was that process like?
So,
I know some of that answer. I I need to ask it anyway. For the sake of Los doesn't know it, and the listeners need to know because it's great.
Okay, so I am not meant to work for someone.
Now she's just realizing this now.
Yeah, agreed. Same.
Like, it's just not.
Yeah.
Okay, like, sticking to a time frame of when needing to be online, and I mean, it was beautiful getting to work from home. Like, that was incredible. I mean, I can say this now because I no longer work there, but like, I was able to work on jewelry and work and getting everything done, and being able to live my life, but also doing my job and doing my job well. Like, I did my job well. I will say that. Like, you know, and I always did what I needed to do. But I very soon became quite unhappy with the job where I was at. So a lot of things. It was just like not jiving with me anymore, and it was really affecting me, because I was like, oh my God, like, why am I having to put my time and energy into this? You know, like, I don't want to. Like, it made me feel just icky and gross. I was just like miserable. I felt like my energy was just being sucked out of me. I was dealing with shit that I'm like, why am I dealing with this? Like, none of this fucking matters. Like, what am I doing? Like, I'm sorry, but I don't give a shit. Like, I just did not give a single shit anymore. I couldn't even pretend to care.
The pretend shits were not even coming through anymore.
I was like planning for 2020, like, or 2021. Like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like,
In there.
you know, it's just like, and there was just like a lot of changes and things that were happening, and it was the expectations that were put on my small ass team of me was ridiculous, and I, you know, for what I was making, I was just like, man, fuck this shit. Like, ooh, fuck it. And so I, for a very long time, was like, okay, how can I quit? Like, how can I just, like, make jewelry full time? And, you know, I would go back and forth so many times of, like, when I hit this amount in savings, or when I consistently make this amount of money per month, or, you know, a bunch of different things that I thought was, like, that's going to be it.
Yeah.
But it was also, like, really terrifying. Like, I remember talking to my cousin, who's a financial advisor, and I was, like, you know, chatting with him, and he was just like, don't do it. Like, you know, like, I mean, I know he was doing that from, like, a supportive, loving place of, like, I just don't want to see you, like, not have money to eat or, like, pay rent or anything. And, but, you know, I was just had all of these sort of, like, mixed feelings, right? Of, like, what logically makes sense, and then, like, what am I feeling? Yeah. And what is the sense in that?
And then find the middle ground between the two.
Yeah. And so one thing about this last company that I worked for that I'm super grateful for is I was able to be completely honest with them. And, you know, they knew that jewelry was my trajectory and that I wasn't trying to stay with them. Mm-hmm. And they were extremely supportive of that. Mm-hmm. Very, very supportive. And so we had discussed, like, me going part-time. And so that way I could, like, focus more on jewelry and still work for them, have that sort of, like, security and, like, whatever. Like, slowly inch my way into doing this full-time. And that, I started part-time in October of 2021. And the last 6 months of 2021 were also, like, fucking bonkers for me. A lot happened in that time frame. But, yeah, I went part-time, and but that only lasted for like a month. Or I think, it was October. Yeah. So I did part-time in October. I remember I was like